Two brothers grew up in the same house, shared the same parents, attended the same schools, had access to identical opportunities. They even chose similar careers and earned nearly identical salaries throughout their working lives. At 65, one brother retired with $1.4 million in investments, a paid-off house, and complete financial freedom. He spends winters in Arizona, helps his grandchildren with college costs, and never checks prices at restaurants. The other brother retired with $180,000 in savings, a mortgage with 12 years remaining, and constant financial anxiety. He works part-time at a hardware store because Social Security doesn't cover his expenses. He lies awake at night calculating whether he can afford both his medications and his property taxes. Identical genes, identical upbringing, identical earning power, radically different outcomes. The divergence didn't happen in their 20s when both brothers were too young and too broke to make meaningful financial progress. It didn't happen in their 30s when both were building families and careers with similar approaches. And it didn't happen in their 50s when the trajectory was already locked in. The divergence happened entirely in their 40s. One brother made a series of decisions during that decade that seemed small at the time. The other brother made different decisions that also seemed small. Neither realized they were determining the entire shape of their remaining lives. Your 40s represent the most consequential financial decade you'll ever experience. Not because the decisions are harder than other decades, but because the stakes multiply in ways that aren't obvious until it's too late to change course. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why your 40s carry this outsized importance, the specific decisions that separate comfortable retirement from stressed retirement, and what you can do right now, regardless of your current age, to ensure you end up on the right side of this divide. Let me start by explaining the mathematics that make your 40s so disproportionately powerful. Your 40s sit at the intersection of three financial forces that don't align at any other point in your life. Understanding these forces explains why this decade determines everything that follows. The first force is peak earning power. For most professionals, income reaches its maximum somewhere between 42 and 55. The raises that felt significant in your 30s slow down or stop, but the absolute dollars are higher than they've ever been and higher than they'll likely be again. This means your 40s represent the years when you have the most raw material available for building wealth. A 45-year-old earning $120,000 can potentially save more in absolute dollars than they could at any previous point in their career. The second force is remaining compounding time. At 40, you still have 20 to 25 years until traditional retirement. That's enough time for money to roughly quadruple at historical market returns. A dollar invested at 40 becomes approximately $4 by 65. At 50, you have 15 years remaining. A dollar becomes roughly $2.50. At 55, you have 10 years. A dollar becomes roughly $2. The compounding multiplier drops rapidly with each passing year. Your 40s represent the last decade where meaningful compounding remains possible. The money you invest at 42 works dramatically harder than the money you invest at 52. The third force is expense stabilization. By your 40s, many major expenses have peaked or begun declining. Children become more independent and eventually leave home. The house you stretched to afford now fits comfortably in your budget. The career wardrobe is established. The furniture is bought. This stabilization creates potential margin that didn't exist in your 30s when every expense category was growing simultaneously. The question is whether that margin flows to savings or gets absorbed by lifestyle expansion. These three forces combine to create a decade of unusual leverage. You have more income than ever before, you have enough time remaining for compounding to matter significantly, and you have potential margin from stabilizing expenses. The person who captures this alignment builds substantial wealth. The person who misses it faces mathematical constraints that cannot be overcome. Let me show you the specific numbers that illustrate this leverage. Consider someone who reaches 40 with $100,000 in retirement savings. They earn $110,000 annually and could reasonably save 15% of their income, or $16,500 per year. If they actually save that 15% from age 40 to 65, investing in diversified index funds returning 8% annually, they'll accumulate approximately $1.35 million by retirement. Combined with Social Security, they're looking at comfortable retirement with significant margin. If instead they save only 5% during their 40s, then increase to 15% at 50 when retirement feels more urgent, they'll accumulate approximately $780,000 by retirement. That's $570,000 less, despite only 10 years of reduced contributions. The 40s contributions matter so disproportionately because they have 25 years to compound. The 50s contributions only have 15 years. The mathematical leverage of time cannot be recovered through increased contributions later. Now consider a third scenario. This person reaches 40 with the same $100,000, but instead of saving during their 40s, they actually decrease their retirement contributions to fund lifestyle expansion. They upgrade the house, they buy nicer cars, they take more expensive vacations. Their 40s contributions average just 2% of income. At 50, reality sets in. They panic and try to catch up, saving 20% of income through retirement. Despite this aggressive 50s saving, they accumulate approximately $590,000 by 65. Their comfortable 40s cost them $760,000 in retirement wealth compared to consistent saving. The decade of decisions created a gap that a decade of correction could not close. Let me walk through the specific decisions that matter most during this critical decade. The first decision involves housing. Your 40s often bring an urge to upgrade your living situation. The kids are bigger and need more space. You've earned success and want a home that reflects it. The mortgage payments feel manageable given your income. This housing upgrade decision might be the single most consequential financial choice you make in your entire life. The family that upgrades from a $350,000 home to a $600,000 home increases their monthly housing cost by roughly $1,500 to $2,000. That's $18,000 to $24,000 annually that cannot be invested. Over the 25 years from age 40 to 65, that annual difference compounds to somewhere between $900,000 and $1.3 million in retirement wealth. The house upgrade literally costs $1 million in retirement money. I'm not suggesting nobody should ever buy a larger home. I'm suggesting that most people make this decision without understanding its true cost. They think they're spending an extra $1,800 per month on housing. They're actually spending over $1 million in retirement wealth. The family that stays in the modest home and invests the difference creates options the upgrading family never has. They can retire earlier. They can work part-time rather than full-time in their 60s. They can help their children buy homes. They can weather financial emergencies without catastrophe. The second decision involves vehicles. Your 40s often bring more expensive car purchases. The practical sedan gets replaced by a luxury vehicle. The reliable SUV gets traded for something prestigious. The family running two $45,000 vehicles instead of two $28,000 vehicles has approximately $34,000 more in auto debt, pays higher insurance premiums, and faces more expensive repairs. Over time, this vehicle premium costs somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000 in retirement wealth, depending on how frequently vehicles are replaced. The third decision involves children's lifestyle and education. Your 40s typically include the most expensive child-rearing years. Teenagers need cars, insurance, activities, and eventually college. Some families take on Parent Plus loans exceeding $100,000 to send children to prestigious universities. Others cash out retirement accounts to fund education. Others simply stop contributing to retirement entirely during the college years. Each of these decisions mortgages the parent's retirement to fund the children's education. The children graduate into peak earning years with their whole careers ahead of them. The parents enter their 50s with depleted savings and barely a decade to recover. The families who navigate this successfully often make uncomfortable choices. They require children to attend state universities or schools offering scholarships. They expect children to contribute through work or loans. They maintain retirement contributions even when college bills create pressure to stop. The fourth decision involves career risk tolerance. Your 40s present opportunities for career moves that could significantly increase income. New companies recruiting you for senior roles, startups offering equity, industries where your skills command premiums. Many people become increasingly risk-averse in their 40s precisely when they should be taking strategic risks. They've built seniority and comfort at their current employer. The thought of starting over somewhere new feels threatening, but the 40s represent your last window for income acceleration. By 50, hiring discrimination begins affecting opportunities. The person who takes strategic career risks at 43 has time to recover if the risk doesn't pay off. The person who waits until 53 doesn't. The income difference between staying comfortable and pursuing growth can exceed $30,000 or $40,000 annually. Over 10 years, that's $300,000 to $400,000 in additional earnings. The fifth decision involves lifestyle inflation acceptance. Your 40s bring social pressure to display success. Colleagues take elaborate vacations. Neighbors renovate their kitchens. Friends buy boats and second homes. Some families resist this pressure and maintain the lifestyle that felt comfortable in their late 30s. Others expand to match their peer group, absorbing every dollar of increased income into visible consumption. The difference in retirement outcomes between these two approaches typically exceeds $1 million. Let me tell you about David and Christine to illustrate how these decisions compound. David and Christine married in their late 20s. By 40, they had $185,000 in retirement accounts, owned a modest home worth $320,000 with $180,000 remaining on the mortgage, and were raising two children, aged 12 and 9. Their combined income reached $165,000. They had choices to make about how to navigate the coming decade. David pushed for upgrading their home. A comparable home in a nicer development would cost $575,000. Christine felt hesitant, but eventually agreed. The housing upgrade increased their monthly costs by $1,650. They adjusted by reducing retirement contributions from 15% to 6%. It was temporary, they told themselves. 2 years later, David's car developed problems. Rather than repair it, they decided he'd earned a nicer car. The new SUV added $680 to their monthly expenses. Christine's car got upgraded a year later. The children's high school years brought private sports training, SAT tutoring, and college visits. When the first child enrolled at an out-of-state university, David and Christine took a Parent Plus loan rather than asking their daughter to choose a more affordable option. Throughout their 40s, David and Christine never felt financially irresponsible. Every individual decision seemed reasonable. By 50, their retirement accounts held $240,000. That's only $55,000 more than they'd had at 40. Despite 10 years of contributions and market growth, the kids were finally independent. David and Christine committed to catching up. They maxed out retirement contributions. By 65, they'd accumulated $685,000. It felt like a lot until they ran the retirement projections. They would likely run out of money by 82. They'd need to sell the house, dramatically reduce expenses, or work well into their 70s. Now let me tell you about Robert and Jennifer. Robert and Jennifer looked remarkably similar to David and Christine at 40. Combined income of $155,000. Retirement savings of $165,000. Two children aged 11 and 8. Robert suggested upgrading to a larger home. Jennifer pushed back hard. She'd read about the mathematical impact of housing decisions on retirement outcomes. They agreed to stay in their current home. The decision felt like a sacrifice initially, but the $1,650 monthly difference flowed directly to retirement accounts. When Robert's car needed replacing, they bought a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle. When college approached, they had honest conversations with their children about costs. Both kids attended state universities with merit scholarships. Throughout their 40s, Robert and Jennifer felt like they were swimming against social current. Their lifestyle looked modest compared to their peers. By 50, their retirement accounts held $580,000. The aggressive saving, combined with market returns, had more than tripled their balance in 10 years. By 65, Robert and Jennifer had accumulated $1.65 million. Their house was paid off. They could retire fully, travel extensively, and never worry about money again. The mathematical difference between these two families wasn't earned by different incomes or different investment skills. It was earned by different 40s decisions. Here's what I find most striking about these two stories. During their 40s, both families felt equally satisfied with their lives. Research consistently shows that lifestyle inflation provides only temporary happiness boosts. Within 18 to 24 months, people adapt to their new normal. David and Christine didn't actually enjoy their 40s more than Robert and Jennifer. They just spent more. The additional spending provided no lasting satisfaction while permanently constraining their remaining decades. Let me give you specific guidance based on where you currently stand. If you're in your 20s or 30s reading this, you have the gift of foreknowledge. You now understand that your 40s will present constant pressure to expand your lifestyle during your peak earning years. Build the habits now that will protect you then. Establish automatic retirement contributions that you never reduce. Define enough before your income makes excess possible. If you're entering your 40s, you're standing at the most important financial inflection point of your life. The decisions you make in the next 10 years will determine whether you retire comfortably or stressed. Audit every major expense category right now. Is your housing appropriately sized? Are your vehicles transportation or status symbols? Are you funding retirement before funding lifestyle? Every yes to lifestyle expansion is a no to retirement security. If you're in your late 40s and recognizing yourself in the wrong story, you still have time to change trajectories. Every percentage point you add to your savings rate now will improve your outcome. Consider radical options that your lifestyle-inflated peers won't consider. Downsizing housing now rather than in retirement. Selling expensive vehicles. Taking jobs that pay more even if they require change. If you're already past your 40s with inadequate savings, focus on what remains within your control. Delay Social Security to maximize benefits. Consider working longer. Downsize housing to release equity. Let me address something that underlies all of these decisions. The psychological difficulty of 40s frugality comes from feeling like you've earned the right to enjoy your success. After 20 years of working, the impulse to finally live well feels completely justified. When does the gratification actually arrive? This framing is the trap that captures most people. The gratification you're seeking through lifestyle expansion provides temporary pleasure followed by permanent constraint. The upgraded house feels exciting for 18 months, then feels normal, while permanently reducing retirement savings. The luxury car provides a thrill for a year, then becomes just a car, while permanently limiting options. True gratification isn't found in consuming your peak earning years. It's found in converting those years into permanent freedom. The person who resists lifestyle inflation in their 40s experiences genuine gratification every day of their comfortable retirement. The person who inflated their lifestyle experiences genuine stress every day of their constrained retirement. The discomfort of 40s frugality lasts 10 years. The reward lasts 30 years or more. The pleasure of 40s indulgence lasts 2 to 3 years. The consequence lasts 30 years or more. Picture yourself at 70 years old. You're sitting on a porch or in a living room. The morning is quiet. In one version of this future, you're thinking about which grandchild you'll visit this month. You're planning a trip somewhere you've always wanted to see. You're relaxed because unexpected expenses don't threaten your stability. In the other version, you're calculating whether this month's Social Security check will cover your medications. You're worried about what happens if your car needs repairs. You feel anxious about an uncertain future with limited options. Both versions of you made their 40s decisions decades earlier. Both are living with the consequences. Which version you become depends almost entirely on what you do between 40 and 50. Not on luck, not on income. On decisions about housing, vehicles, education, career, and lifestyle that compound just like money does. Your 40s will end eventually. The decade will pass whether you make intentional choices or default choices. The only question is which version of your 70-year-old self you're creating. Your 40s will decide everything. That's not a burden, that's an opportunity. What you do with that opportunity is entirely up to you.